But today I want to talk about this idea that we're here to be the most generous we can be. Jesus said it is more blessed to give than to receive. And we want to test that statement. Is it more blessed to give than to receive? We want to learn as a people to imitate the one who is rich in mercy. On your seats you have a card that says every good and perfect gift comes from above. And actually we were praying this morning, we felt to pray against deception, that we can be easily deceived. And so I looked up where that word deception appears in the Bible, and I thought it might be interesting. It's interesting to note that in James 1 verse 16, this is what it says. It says, "Do not be deceived, my beloved brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. Of his own will he brought forth the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creation." Don't be deceived. Every good thing in your life comes from a faithful God. When I went through a period in my life where I was in debt, I never forget receiving in the post a card with £300 cash randomly, anonymously from someone who I didn't know, with the Bible verse, James 1 verse 16, 17, every good and perfect gift comes from the Father of the heavenly lights. God is faithful. And I have often been blown away by the generosity of the Christian community that is the church. It has been a source of just amazement and joy throughout my life as God has used people like you to be a source of amazing blessing. My first 2 cars I received in answer to prayer from the people of God. One was a bit of a banger. Still, every good gift comes from the Father of the heavenly lights, even if it cost me a lot of money to fix. For the second one, I got a phone call once from a guy in the church, and he said, "Can you come round? We have something to give you." And I thought, like a CD, a book, I don't know what. So I turned up at his house, and he said to me, "The Lord is giving you a car." He was from Brighton. He said, he was from Nigeria. It's my African accent. Sorry about that. He said, "The Lord is giving you a car. It's sitting outside on the drive." And I thought, what? Apparently, when I went to visit them a few weeks before, as I drove away, this guy said he felt the Lord speak to him and say, "Buy Jez a car." And so he did. He thought, I'm not just going to buy him a banger, I'll buy him a nice car. He said, "I thought we'd spend £1,000 on a car for you." So we found a car in London, and we went up to pick it up. And he said, as I was about to pay the guy for the car, the guy said, "I'm a Christian, and I feel the Lord tell me to give you this car for free." And so he didn't pay £1,000. He got a free car, came home and said to me, "The Lord's given you a car." I was on a great Honda Civic 1.8. I was very grateful. And I think the word generosity can be used to sum up what essentially the Christian message is about. Christianity is about the generosity of God. And therefore, a stingy Christian ought to be like an oxymoron, like cold fire or hot ice. It just doesn't belong together. The very heart of the Christian message is that for God so loved the world that he gave the most precious thing he could to humanity, a humanity that had treated him appallingly. Christianity is about the generosity of God. I want us to imagine what it would look like for a church in this town, for us to be the most generous that we could be. See, we have a vision that over the next 10 years we can give away hundreds of thousands of pounds, both locally and internationally, to provide relief from poverty, to encourage church planters, and to support the persecuted church where we can. Hundreds of thousands of pounds. We've never done that before, but we feel God has birthed a vision in our hearts for that. We have a vision to turn this building into a home for the town where people can come to find love and acceptance, prayer and purpose. We have a vision to host an annual free-to-all festival, incurring cost to ourselves to bring the community together, to provide times for relief, for family fun. In fact, we want to turn our, we've been doing up until now an annual picnic and volleyball day every summer at Chinkton. We want to turn that from just an annual volleyball day into Chingfest. Good title, Chinkton Festival. So if you're gifted in making things like that come to life, come and speak to me. But we have a vision to offer regular free meals to the community, providing community belonging and joy and laughter to people who would otherwise perhaps be lonely or shut in. The psalmist says that God places the lonely in families. We want to provide an application for that. Last Saturday, we had a community dinner here, the first of its kind. And 80 of us gathered round tables for dinner. And it was just a beautiful, for me, vision of what I think God's calling us to in the future. I want us to imagine a church that's so generous no one ever leaves lonely. But every Sunday feels embraced and brought into the family. Imagine a community of people where men and women become mothers and fathers to nurture and encourage one another. We are, all of us, crying out for people to invest in us, to nurture us. Our young people especially, as we've heard this morning, crying out for people to say, I want to love these individuals and with generosity pour my gifts and things that I've got into them. Imagine being part of a people so generous that we can do things like that, known for our generosity and hospitality. I love what's going on with our cafe, commercial cafe, Tuesday and Wednesday here, but the team that are running this are just doing an outstanding job of increasing and in creating this place of hospitality and warmth, such that I heard of one mum who's not part of the town, not part of the church. She's not part of the church. She comes to the mums and toddler group here, but before she comes in here, goes in there to the cafe, and she says that her little son doesn't want to go to the toddler group. Just what she says, my son just wants to stay here with Deborah. That is what he said. But Joe, Deborah, Gintari, the way I sit there and watch as they just sweep up these mums, and well, not just mums, but anyone who comes and encourages them, it's beautiful. It's what God's calling us to. I heard of someone turning up to the cafe the other week in need, and so being taken into a side room and just having someone love them and pray for them. Beautiful. A generous people is a people where everyone knows that they've got something to offer and then offers it, because you have all got gifts. And generosity begins then by recognizing the gifts that God has given you. It begins by recognizing the gifts that God has given you, and then it carries on by helping others to recognize their gift as well. Imagine being in a people who offer their skills to others for free in a kind of emergency DIY SOS that goes on all year round, whether it's building gifts or business coaching or befriending or counseling or cooking or childminding or other things not always beginning with C. When we imagine those things, we're starting to imagine what it looks like to be the most generous church that we can be. And one day, you see, we won't need to imagine, because we'll be it. I mean, if I'd have stood here 10 years ago and said, imagine a church of this size with its own building in the town, the group of 30 or 40 of us would have looked and gone, I can imagine it, but it's unlikely, isn't it? And yet God did it. He does it. And he's speaking to us about what he's calling us to be. To be the most generous we can be, you see, involves our time, it involves our energy, it involves our words, it involves our forgiveness. A generous church is a church that forgives. And when I say forgives, I don't mean brushes awkward things under the carpet and does the British thing where we just think, I'm never going to talk about it. Forgiveness means acknowledging I was done pain, but I forgive you. That's generosity. Generosity involves our finance. It involves using whatever we have, our home, our woodland, as in the case of the bonfire and barbecue the other week. I love what God said to Moses. What is in your hand, Moses? And he used what was in his hand to perform great miracles. Generosity looks like using whatever God puts in you, your hands, for the good of others.